Hey, it's Mr. Roboto back again with another trade review. So we'll start with, again, my QQQ thesis going into the day, and then we'll review two losing trades I had at Open, AMD and Apple, and then a big winner I had in BA, and then MA was another huge winner I had and why I took that overnight, and I had a small Tesla scalp that ended up playing out pretty well. So QQQ. You can see it's sort of trading in this range. It's pretty range bound from the highs up here and then to this daily support line. It's pretty much just going up and down, chopping up and down in this range. So I didn't really have too much of a thesis today. I didn't think it was going to break out, and I didn't think it was going to break below. Also, if anything, I thought it would just trade within this range again. And that's sort of exactly what it did today. You know, it went all the way down to the low and then brought it back to the middle of this range. So let's look at it intraday. So you can kind of see here that yesterday we brought it all the way up to the highs, and then we sort of kept the highs of this range. You know, if you look at this supply and this demand, it kept the price stayed at the top of this range, and then they brought it down, and then they brought it back up. So what I'm thinking is, if I see something at the top of the range, I'm expecting a pullback. It's not trading in this supply, looking like it's ready to break out. It's actually rejecting this supply. So I thought, if anything, there was going to be a pullback today and that they would rip it back up. I didn't expect the pullback all the way down to here, but in hindsight, that probably would have made the most sense in QQQ. I thought we would actually hold this and then keep going up, but that was obviously not what happened. So I ended up taking a trade on AMD, and this was mainly off of the daily setup. So I really like this downward trend line. We've been bouncing off of this trend line. So yesterday with this candle, I thought we would again touch this trend line, and it was in confluence with this supply turn demand zone that I had at 107.9, and I thought we would bounce from here and make new highs. Maybe get back up to where we were yesterday. So that was my plan for AMD. That's not what ended up happening. So you can see here, we pretty much sliced through my supply turn demand zone. That should have been my first clue that we were going to go lower on AMD, but I ended up actually taking calls right around here. I took calls right around here, and it went down and it went back up. I should have went ahead and exited right here, but I didn't. I was holding to see if we would end up reversing, and then when it didn't, I ended up stopping out pretty clearly right here. So a small paper cut. I recognized very very quickly that we were not going to bounce here. This was not a strong enough demand zone for AMD to go ahead and make new higher days. So small paper cut. I did end up taking another trade on AMD later on in the day. I took it out of this. It looked like the market was reversing, so I took some contracts here, and I didn't hold too long. I ended up selling right around here. So I got a little bit back from the paper cut. Apple. So my thesis on Apple was pretty much just playing off of this candle that it formed yesterday. Very bullish candle. Anytime I see something like this, I lean towards playing it long the next day, but only at any dips. So I wanted a dip on Apple to go long on. And that was sort of in line with my thesis on QQQ. I thought QQQ was at the top of the range it's been trading in, and it would dip down and then go back up. So let's look at Apple. So I actually took a trade on Apple right around here. It was a very, very choppy morning. I don't know if anyone else realized that, but this morning was very choppy. So I didn't take any huge positions. I took paper cuts on on these starters for the most part. I ended up taking Apple long right around here, and I should have sold here, but I wanted to hold it a little bit longer to to see if it would reverse, and it was only a starter, so it wasn't that much profit at this point. And it went down, and I actually added here, and it went back up, and then at this point, it failed to make a higher high, so I was at this point looking to get out of my position. I ended up holding right until it got to the break of day. So right around here on this knife is when I sold for a paper cut. Um, yeah, I could have made the argument that I could have sold here for a little bit of profit, but again, my position was a little bit of light, and I wanted to, hold to my hold the trade to my stop, which was a new low a day for the most part. A new low a day was right here. So yeah, took another paper cut on Apple at this point. Um, I was in one other trade at this point, and this was BA. I actually, so on BA, so I'll take a look at, I'll show my daily on this. It's kind of hard to see with all of the stuff that I have, but pretty much my technical analysis on Boeing is that it's trading in this downward channel. And we have, we've bounced up and down this downward channel for a couple, pretty much all of this year. And then in a larger time frame, you can see that it's trading in this, it's in an upward channel, but the short term, if you can call this a year, the short term pattern is that it's going in a downtrend. So playing off of those two patterns, my thesis is that Boeing is going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, and then touch this bottom trend line before going back up. This is pretty aggressive, especially with this trend line down here, but it's not totally out of the question. So I wanted to play. So I'm pretty bearish on BA, in the midterm, but it had this pennant here, this bear pennant, and it broke down. And then if you can actually see on the hourly from yesterday, I think I posted this on Twitter, but this was yesterday. It broke down and it tried to regain this daily trend line, and it failed. So ignore these candles because this is from today, but off of this looked like to me that BA was retesting this trend line and failed. So going into the day, I was bearish on BA, and I wanted to play puts on it. I had two plans for BA. One was, if it just wants to sell off into the at open, then I would take puts right here if it breaks below 212 with momentum. And this was pretty much the low of day from yesterday. My other plan was I had these two supply zones, and I would take puts at these supply zones. And how did I get these supply zones? These are both 30-minute supply zones. So you can see here, here's the green basing candle. And this is actually from after hours or pre-market. So this was my one supply zone. And then this was a smaller, kind of a weaker supply zone, playing off of this basing candle, but I just drew it all the way up to the top because you can see that there was a big drop off from this level in the past. So going into BA, and it might be easier to see. So BA, and I posted this chart, my executions on Twitter if you want to get a closer look. But if you can see here, It sliced through this first supply zone of mine. And this was sort of my first clue that it was going to go higher, but I kind of got faked out by this doji right here. So this doji, when I saw this on the 2 minute, I was thinking to myself, okay, we sliced through this first supply zone, but that's okay because I sort of knew this was a weak supply zone. But then it failed to even touch this 216 supply zone and it sold off hard. Um, so I actually entered prematurely into puts right around here, on this candle, and I was thinking it was going to just keep selling from there. Well, that's not what happened. So good thing I only took a starter, um, but that's not what happened. It ended up ripping up, and it actually pierced through the supply zone, but it sold off from it, and I actually added to my position right around here. So at this point, before adding to here, I was down like 25% on my starter position. So I had, there was a lot of emotions going on, thinking about whether I should just cover for or sell for a loss right up here, because what if it just keeps going? BA looked really strong in the morning compared to everything else, which was selling off. So that was another thing that was sort of I was considering at the time. BA being relatively strong, the rest of the market is weak. There's a chance that it could just keep selling. But I kind of stayed focused, kind of stayed to my plan, and I looked at things objectively. Saw that it pierced through the supply barrier, but it didn't keep going. And then this candle on the 2 minute, another large wick, and then it failed to pierce the supply. So I actually added more contracts here. And then let me look at where else I added contracts. Let me look at my executions. So I actually added more right around here. So 215 was a big level. So when it broke through 215, you see these two lows right here, or these two supports on the 2 minute, this one and this one. When it broke through this, I added pretty much a full position. And then I added one more time, and that was right around here. And this is sort of a FOMO ad, because I was so confident in my BA thesis that it was going to sell off that I wanted to have a larger position in it. And I wasn't happy with my average because of these original buys. So I bought more down here. And then my first covers were right here when it broke a new low of it broke below this. I went ahead and covered or sold some of my contracts just to lock in some gains. And because I was pretty heavy in like oversized in this trade, I went ahead and locked in some gains. So I sold about 50% of my contracts here. And then I ended up adding, all of this. And then once I broke this, let me see. Once I broke through this, I was very comfortable in the trade, and I was actually looking to add on any pops once it broke yesterday's low of day. So I actually added more here, and then I covered right around here, and then I wanted to see if it would break my other price target. And these price targets were pretty much the low of days that I found on the chart looking left. So you'll notice that these were my price targets. The low of day from this day and the low of day from this day. These were pretty much my price targets. So I added here, I covered here, and I wanted to see a further breakdown. Like this is the move that I wanted. But then when I saw it going back up, I went ahead and took the rest of my contract, sold the rest of my contracts right around here. So a really good trade for me. I had to sit through a little bit of pain in the beginning. Yes, these original buys were sort of, in hindsight, they probably weren't the best buys. But yeah, this doji is really the thing that got me this morning. I thought it was gonna sell off from this point, but it didn't. But luckily, I stayed objective. I stuck to my plan, and I added around here. And BA ended up being a really good trade. MA, I won't talk too much about MA, but I ended up taking this overnight yesterday. And just talk a little bit about why I took this overnight. One, I think it's a good swing in general. It's right here at this VPOC, which is the volume point of control. There's a pretty large volume shelf forming here. It's in line with this trend line that I've drawn that it'll potentially bounce from. And then we have this pretty large volume, selling volume here. And anytime we've had volume this large in the past, that MA has reversed. So look at this here. MA ended up reversing. We had large volume here. MA ended up reversing. Again, we had large volume here, and MA ended up reversing. So that's what I saw here. And that's why I got into MA yesterday. And yesterday, I posted this yesterday that I was getting into MA. I actually got in the first time right around here, and I ended up selling for a loss right around. I think it was right around here is when I ended up selling for a loss, and that was pretty questionable sells. But at the end of day, I recognized that MA was actually holding a key level, and that's why I got back in. I noticed that this level here, the previous day's high, and then in conjunction with this sort of high, MA was holding it really well to close the day. Yeah, we went up and then we went back down. Very questionable entry, very questionable sells here for a loss. But luckily, like I said, I was able to recognize that MA was actually holding this level. So I ended up adding or re-adding my position and some like right around here yesterday. And then I had some literally at the last second. I added some more here yesterday. So this is what I ended up holding overnight. And then this morning, I ended up selling my full position right here. I really wish I would have held more, but you know, it was fine. QQQs look like, the indexes look like it was selling off, and this, having seen this candle, um, I thought that MA would potentially chop around for a little bit, and I didn't. My plan was not to swing long term, so I was more than happy with the profit that I had. The contracts really jumped up in the morning, so I ended up selling everything here. Um, this would have been a good ad in hindsight. So if we look at this, maybe from the 30-minute, this would have been a really good ad. So you can see that there is a 30-minute demand zone here. This would have been a good ad, but my eyes just were not looking at MA anymore. But had I made a plan for this, then like I said, this would have been a really good ad. Look at that; it's almost perfect. And then the last trade that I took was I just took a scalp on Tesla. I recognized that there was a inverted head and shoulders 1, 2, and 3 right here, and I ended up taking on. So my plan was I knew that on this up here that I wanted to see a pullback because I like that it made a higher high and it looked like it was going to form an inverted shoulders. So my plan was I was going to buy the right shoulder and sell after that. So I ended up buying right around here, and I sold right around here. Tesla is a little expensive for me, so I almost always just scalp Tesla. Kind of wish I didn't, because this was a huge move. My contracts ended up going, another $300 or $400 per contract. But again, I was pretty happy with this move. So yeah, that was the highlights to my trades today. So there was some losers in the morning. AMD and Apple, both losers, but very small losers. And I didn't hold them. I was very quick to recognize that I was wrong, and luckily my size was mainly just starters, and I cut them very quickly for paper cuts. In the past, I could have easily tried to hold. Um, Average down on these positions and take a huge L. But yeah, in September, I'm trying not to take any huge L's. So very quick to cut my losers. And then yeah, BA was the big one today. Really made my day. MA overnight was really really good start to the day. Tesla, good beer money, and yeah, tomorrow, I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. I haven't really looked at everything to form a thesis. If I had to guess, you know, I think we just get another day of chop, to be honest. The fact that the Bears got the price of QQQ all the way down to the daily support and was not able to break below it, um, kind of tells me that the Bears, are kind of weak in this scenario. So they let the Bulls come back in and bring it all the way back up. So if anything, I lean bullish tomorrow. But that's it for my trades. Again, if you have any questions, my DMs are open. You can hit me up on Twitter, or you can hit me up on Discord. Just search for my name. Um, and I really appreciate all the feedback that I've been getting in my DMs and all the questions that people have been asking. So yeah, doing these videos do take a little bit of work, and do take some time out of my day. But if I'm able to help people, then I think that's a good use of my time. So I really appreciate the feedback, and looking forward to any further feedback or questions. That's it for me. Hope everyone has a good day, and let's kill it again tomorrow.